Good morning, everyone. It's genuinely satisfying to see the room full, and I hope Bangalore traffic gods were kind to all of you on this Saturday morning. Welcome to everyone.
Absolutely. And we also have delegates and speakers from outside the city. We have people coming from Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad. We're super thrilled to have you here. So welcome again.
Thank you. My name is Shivangi.
And I'm Ashwini. We'll be your co-hosts for the day, your eyes and ears for the day. And you'll also remember us as the people sending you all the WhatsApp messages and email reminders. So now you can put faces to those names.
Absolutely. We have lived with your research papers, your abstracts for the better part of a whole year. So it's genuinely nice for all of us to, see all those faces come together and be a part of this absolutely fantastic, epic morning.
So before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping points. So it's going to be a very packed agenda. So in order to make it smooth, kindly keep your phones on silent. And if you absolutely need to take that call, you're free to leave the room and take it and come back. And washroom breaks, there are designated breaks, quite a few of them. So kindly use the washrooms during that. They're right outside the hall. And tea will also be served outside in the hall. And lunch is served on the terrace, and we'll direct you towards that.
Yeah, and if you need any help, you can reach out to the EPIC volunteers. EPIC volunteers, could we have you raise your hand? Thank you. Finally, we love feedback of all shapes and sizes. So look out for the QR code, and during breaks, we'll be displaying them around the room, in the tea area, in the lunch area. Please give us feedback so that we can, continue to be better at what we do.
Great. So now, stepping in, just to give you a glimpse of how EPIC started. It began with a simple question that we asked ourselves at EI. We realized that teachers everywhere do some really innovative experiments, try some new things in their classroom, but not a lot of it gets visibility within other teachers, within other departments, even between schools. In fact, there's this really famous story of a teacher from Denver. Her name was Kyle Schwartz, and she tried a little experiment in her classroom. She passed index cards to her students with the lines, "I wish my teacher knew." So the student was expected to fill up the remaining. And she wanted to do this to find out what she felt, what students felt that she should know about them. And the answers really, really surprised her. So one of the children wrote, "I wish my teacher knew that I don't have friends to play with." And another child wrote, "I wish my teacher knew I don't have pencils to do my homework." And another said, "I wish my teacher knew that I miss my dad," because the child's father was deported to Mexico when the child was 3 years old. So what they felt their teacher should know about them was not pedagogical, not to do with the curriculum. And that was a huge shift in mindset for that teacher, because she realized it's not the curriculum that I should teach. I teach to the human. So that's the kind of germ for EPIC. And we realized this is not true globally, it's very much true of India as well.
Exactly. In fact, the question to ourselves was, why can't more such stories come from home? What can we do with you so that more classrooms stories can come to the front? And moreover than that, the question was that why do these stories not travel, and what can we at EI do about it? And EPIC was our initiative so that we could make more such gatherings possible. We could have classroom research to the forefront, and we could appreciate and acknowledge the teachers who are the driving force, behind all these initiatives. In fact, there's a video that's been put by the organizers together, and we would like to play the video that I think perfectly sets the tone.
It began quietly with a question.
We kept asking ourselves, what really happens in classrooms? And how often do teachers get space to pause and reflect?
EPIC began with a simple question about learning, not outcomes, but understanding.
It was less about perfection or polished research and more about practice.
And inquiry without judgment.
Without hierarchy. just teachers learning with and from each other.
Teaching is full time. Inquiry is not extra time. It is extra intention. EPIC was not about producing research papers. It was about noticing practice, pausing, asking why something works or doesn't in real classrooms.
Documenting my practice changed how I view my role as a teacher.
EPIC has made me more intentional in my teaching choices by helping me understand how impact can be measured. It has made my classrooms reflective, impactful, and intentional.
I learned to find evidence in everyday classroom moments. Turning my daily practices into an applied research paper once seemed unimaginable, but EPIC guided me through the entire process. Thank you.
EPIC made me more reflective about everyday classroom decisions, and this journey helped me to connect evidence with intuition. Thank you, EPIC.
EPIC is not about individual brilliance. It is about a community of educators who believe that sharing practice strengthens all of us. EPIC is still growing, and so is the community around it. Welcome to EPIC.
Wonderful. So, again, a little bit of behind the scenes for you. This journey was not without hurdles. For example, research has this sense of being very academic, very scholarly. So, how do you take that into the everyday teacher's space, into regular classrooms? Also, we know that teachers in India are multitaskers and juggle multiple responsibilities, right? There's PTMs, there's events, there's exams, there's lesson planning. A teacher's schedule is always full. So, how do we convince you to not only add another project on top of it, but carry it through for 5 to 6 months, gather data, put it in the form of a formal practice paper, and then submit it? But we also realize that these teachers are made of sterner stuff. Right? You have drive, you have, you are very tenacious. So you rose to the occasion beautifully, and the results spoke for themselves.
Absolutely. In fact, the second thing that we realized was that innovation in teaching doesn't have to be a matter of subject, right? It's an entire ecosystem in itself, and which is why we curated themes for EPIC, keeping in mind the vastness of the ecosystem and the depth of that ecosystem. We opened the 6 themes, which are pedagogical techniques, parent involvement, classroom environment, student learning behaviors, organizing curricula, syllabi, and lesson plans, and finally, using technology effectively.
And finally, to make research accessible, we also had to make teachers familiar with the idea of a practice paper. What does it mean to start with a problem? How do you choose a problem? How do you gather data? How do you put it together? How do you write a practice paper from there? So in that journey, we conducted 6 webinars where we were also joined by some fantastic guest speakers who helped us take the tenets of research to you. And from what we hear, it really helped everyone put their formal papers together beautifully.
In fact, it's quite satisfying to see the journey from our first webinar to where we are all today. We received 260 registrations. There were about 120 abstracts. We zeroed down to 50 final papers, of which we had 3 winners. We have 23 honorary mentions, and our reach was for more than 1,000 participants and teachers as a whole, and we hope to continue year on year.
Exactly. And we'll hear from our winners, of course, today.
Yeah.
But before that, to officially kickstart this day, I let our first speaker set the context. In fact, Epic was his vision come to fruition. He's an alumnus of IIT Madras and IIT Ahmedabad, who made a bold transition from a corporate life at IBM to education. In 2001, he co-founded EI with a specific mission, which was to shift the focus from rote memorization to learning with understanding.
He's a pioneer in the science of learning using tools like EI Asset and EI Mindspark. He has served or serves on key government bodies like the Parak Committee and on boards of Central Square Foundation and Pratham Gujarat. Please put your hands together for the co-founder of EI, Mr. Sridhar Rajagopalan.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us on Saturday morning in Bangalore, and thanks especially to those of you who've come from outside Bangalore, so really appreciate that. So I'm just going to share some thoughts both on Epic, why we do it, and why I have always felt, and I think EI as a whole, we have believed that research has to be the foundation of any key work if we have to do to make a change in the system. So what was the vision of Epic? Why did we do Epic? You've heard Ashwini and Shivangi talk about it, and a team has worked on it. The basic idea has been to promote high quality research. By high quality research, I don't mean stuff that is being done by professional researchers, some things that is being published in reputed journals. That is one kind of research that is very important and we value. But by high quality research, what we're talking about is research-based thinking that practitioners, teachers can do in the class. If anything, we know this from our work in EI that the richest evidence is happening in the class, is happening in the teaching process. And so how can we kind of promote that kind of research-based thinking in the classroom? And how can we promote, how can we recognize the teachers who are already doing this, right? Because we know that in reality, there are a large number of teachers who are doing this, who are doing it quietly. Many years ago when we started Eklavya School, we said that teaching is a very lonely profession. In fact, we said that there are only two professions where when you're doing your work, you're all alone. One is that of the pilot, and the second is the teacher, because day in and day out you're teaching and you're alone, right? And it's not just that. We don't have that many cases where teachers are interacting a lot with each other. If you think about it, if you're an engineer, you're a software person, you are anything, most professions, doctors, nurses, they get far more opportunity to interact and learn from each other. So how do you recognize and identify that, okay, here is some excellent work happening, others can be inspired by that. And so the way we did about, they've just talked about it, so I won't repeat it, webinars, guidance, having this whole process. And the idea is that by doing this, can we reach a position where in 3 or 4 years, the whole idea is to make Epic something that the community can own. EI will be happy to drive as much as we have to, but to have more members from the community driving it and making this a regular process and strengthening this kind of research-based thinking. Now, what do we mean by research? The word itself is a little daunting, often to the average practitioner. And to me, research basically means two things, right? And it's rigor and it is systematic thinking. That's it. I think there can be a more comprehensive definition, but the simple way that I would explain it is just rigor in what you do and systematic thinking. What do you mean by rigor? In any problem that we have to solve, and teaching, as we all know, is about taking decisions, solving problems numerous times every day, right? So the example given here is that I need to teach fractions, right? I need to teach some topic. So my mind immediately says, yeah, the best way to do it is this. Now, this is what we call default or the intuition. We have an intuitive answer to that. Rigorous thinking basically means that I don't rely only on that intuition, only on that default thinking, but I try to look for evidence. I try to look for what has actually worked. What have others tried? Is there something I can read about this? What does the research say? Can I discuss this with a few more people? So just saying that every step of the way, I need to kind of think through this and reach the next step. Research is also about, rigor is about the humility to say that, what kind of came to my mind in initially may not be the only way of doing it. And we know this, and this is what we learned from professional researchers, that this is a kind of thinking where you then apply this thinking to any problem that you have to solve. So rigor is the first step, and the second step is systematic thinking, which also, I find a very simple analogy to explain this. So systematic thinking is that, say, I have to reach the 10th floor of a building, right? One way is to go step by step. I'm building on what I did and I reach step 10. And the other way is that, again, either because I got an intuition, or I was lucky, or somebody helped me, I get, say, para-dropped on the 10th floor. Both of us reach the 10th floor, right? But what is the difference? The fact is that if you went there step by step and something is not working at step 2, when you're finally doing it, it's not working. If you have followed the systematic approach, you're probably down to step 9 or step 8, and you kind of try again from there, you try a different thing from there. But if this was just a spark of innovation or something you got from somewhere, you really are not left anywhere on the way. You did not come here in a step-by-step manner. So to me, research is about doing these things, looking for evidence, going step by step, and having a reason for taking every step of that way. One example of this, I'm sure many of you are aware of, is what is the lesson study model. It is an international model, but popularized especially in places like Japan. Right? What is lesson study? One example, again, I took the example of teaching a topic to children. Right? One way is to say, I have been doing this for many years, this is the way to do it. And or this is a good idea that came to my mind. I saw this YouTube video, it was really nice. But what you do in lesson study, first of all, it's not about one teacher, it's a group of teachers. Right? So either a lesson plan or a way of teaching is developed by a group of teachers together. And then one of those teachers actually takes this lesson with a group of children, with the others observing. And what are the others observing? They are not primarily observing the teacher teaching, they are actually observing the children also, and seeing that what is the impact on children, are they learning from this? And then they kind of, after the group, they kind of get together again, they give feedback. They say, this seemed to work. When you said this was happening. One group of children was not engaged at all. I think they did not connect with this example. And then what do? They recreate that, modify that lesson. A different teacher takes it. Again, the group observes. And by doing 2 or 3 iterations of this, I have something which was probably not the original idea that came to anyone's mind, but something that has been rigorously built step by step. So this is an example of how we can use research. This is only one example. There are others, and we'll talk about some of them. But to me, this is a good way of how in something that we do all the time, how can we use this kind of research and rigor. Now, all this research, rigor, evidence does not mean that we are not recognizing the art side of teaching. And I think that's really, really important. I mean, I'm not even going to get into a debate of how much teaching is art and how much it is science. I think there's a huge amount of art involved. Andreas Schleicher, the person who created PISA, the head of the education division of OECD, he actually has this quote. He says this for educational transformation, but I think that applies equally for teaching, where we say, can we make teaching not less of an art, but more of a science? That means while preserving the art side of teaching, can we strengthen the science side of education? And if we do this, we are not removing, the teacher's role, the teacher's connect. I like the example that Ashwini shared in the beginning about what do you not see, what do the children feel the teachers don't see in them. And all those examples were about some kind of human connection, right? And we have also found this, that children learn when they find there's an adult who cares. They don't learn because they often love mathematics because they connect with the person inspires them, right? And we know all this. So that humanity, you don't want to reduce it even by a little bit, but you want to arm it with evidence. You want to make it evidence-backed. So that is a key part of how you bring in research into education. And again, I think this is something that we have been doing in EI all these years, so some of you may be aware of it. So the teacher is like this artist, who is walking into the class. They have thought of this engaging story or thought-provoking question or an analogy or something that's going to connect with the children. But in addition to that, can they also know that, okay, the data tells me that in this topic I'm going to teach, 40% of children have this particular difficulty. So, without losing the first one, can I also have this? And a good way to think of this is doctors, right? A good doctor actually does both these things. I cannot be a good doctor if I don't know my medicine at all, obviously. I have a very good connect with my patients. I understand their psychology. I understand that, if I tell them something, they may not always follow it 100%. Great, but I don't know medicine, that doesn't work. And neither will the reverse, right? Which is I'm an expert on medicine, but I don't connect with my patients. And that is what we need to do with teachers. And in today's world, we probably need a little more of this evidence, the research, where the teacher is aware of these kind of gaps and the data is available to them. So the role of this data is to help support the teacher and give them this that strengthens what they are doing in the class. I'm going to give you two examples of this, and these are kind of, I would say, striking examples that come just from the data, of some of the work that we have been doing over all these years. This is an example of a very basic concept of respiration, right? So what is respiration, right? And the data shows that a lot of children think that humans using oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide is respiration, which is correct. But they also think that plants using carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, which is photosynthesis, right? They also think that is respiration, right? So this is fine. This is something we know. But what this graph shows and what is interesting here is, so it actually shows the x-axis, the horizontal axis has the age of the children. So it's basically taking children all the way from class 4 till about class 9 or 10, right? And this is a period in which obviously they learn respiration, they learn photosynthesis, they learn equations as they go into the higher classes. So they learn it in bio, but they also start learning it in chemistry and so on. They read about it a lot. They are actually going deeper and deeper. What do you find actually happens to the learning? So in this one, the blue line, this one is the correct answer. And that is staying more or less constant at 20%. The question is asked, which of these are respiration? And there are 3 options and only one of them is respiration. But the correct answer stays around 20 almost all the way till maybe the end of class 8 or class 9 when it goes up a little bit. And one particular misconception, right, where they kind of say that plants using carbon dioxide is also respiration, is a dominant misconception which 50% of the students have, and that does not drop even as you go up to class 8 or class 9. Now, if a teacher knows this when they are teaching, they will directly tackle this. Now, why does this happen? This happens because we define respiration for them. We define photosynthesis for them. We give them questions around that. But we don't challenge the thinking. We don't make sure that they've actually understood it. We don't actually ask questions where you can distinguish whether a child has understood this or not. But we have found that if a teacher is aware of this, it's very easy for them to do it. They don't need a special tool or a special device or questions or anything. Because once they've understood children are thinking like this, they are able to easily devise something that addresses this. So that is one example of how, and we keep giving this example that imagine you're a doctor. Imagine the kind of information that is easily available to you. I would say there's a huge amount of easily available information, and then there is even more information that you can access, through journals and this, which you are actually going to use. And we say that that is not true for teachers, and that is, as a community, it's a failure. It's not the teacher's mistake. Like this kind of information has to be easily available to teachers, because then teachers can take those kind of actions. Some of this information is going to come from the kind of research that EPIC is going to try and promote. Some of it is going to come from data like ASSET or other larger scale assessments or other research that happens, more formal research. But all of this has to become easily available to teachers. And I'm saying even that we as a community can do. One more example which I find very interesting and very, very powerful. We know that we do ASSET, and there are questions and there is benchmarking and diagnosis and so on. Diagnosis says, okay, children are not understanding this. They are thinking like this. Benchmarking says, This is the percent of children who are able to answer this. Now, this is something I find like very powerful. It's a very simple question. Which of these is a triangle? We know that children have difficulty with this. And this is class 5 children. Now, what this data is showing is, this is what your school is doing. This is what the national average is. This is what the top school is doing. And in this particular example, there's actually a group. So here there are 10 or 11 groups in your school. This is what they're all doing, right? And I'm just going to show you that. So our school is at 28% of children answer correctly, with 38% having a particular wrong answer, right? Now, if you go to the national average, you find that it's already much better. 40% of children are getting it right. The top school in the country, 69% of children get it right, and there is no misconception at all. While 21% are choosing this, it's not a significant wrong answer. And if I go down, I can literally go school by school and check how, same question, a very basic topic, and I can do this for a large number of topics, right? Any topic you want, in math, in science, in language. You can, it's actually striking. If I'm a teacher, I know that it's clearly the teacher who's doing something which is causing this difference, and the difference is not small, right? And very interesting patterns, right? You will find that I, as teacher A, in my class, children are struggling with this concept, but they're very strong in this one. But in the other class, in section C, which the other teacher is taking, this is reversed. And there are schools that have actually told teachers that, you guys, you please teach this topic, teach algebra in all the sections, and we'll ask teachers to teach geometry because your children are doing that topic really well. So at least discussions like this, insights like this can come by looking at this data, which is not difficult to get, right? The other thing that is one more research that, there are two different researches which I'm sharing here. One of them is that teachers overestimate how much children are learning, right? So if you ask teachers, do you think your children have got it? What percentage do you think will answer it correctly? It's a significant overestimation over what they're actually doing. This is a worldwide phenomenon. We see this in top private schools also. We see this in government schools also. You see this in schools internationally also. So generally we are, partly because we know the topic and we think this is an easy topic, so we think children have also got it. So that is one thing to kind of remind ourselves all the time, that we need to look at actual data on how children have learned and not go by our impression of what they might have learned. And the second thing is even more concerning, or something that teachers have to be aware of, which is that this is again a survey that we had done. This is about, I think, over 1,500 teachers, not just in India, and in the primary classes, where you find that the misconceptions the teachers have matches the misconceptions the students have. Not the same percentage and all that, but there's a pattern, and on certain questions it's almost at the same percentage. So and this again we have seen repeatedly, seen again and again. So some of the misconceptions that children have come from the teachers themselves having the misconception. Many cases it's because the teacher is not aware that the children have these misconceptions. So this is again, just being aware of these information, we find, helps teachers become better. The moment I am becoming more deliberate in what I'm doing, I'm actually trying to think that, okay, how is it my children are thinking? What is the way that they are doing it? How are they approaching this problem? Like, I don't know whether it's surprising, but your teaching automatically improves, right? Because now I remember when you show teachers the answers to questions and the percentage performance, they say that because I saw that result last time, I was consciously asking questions to check whether children are understanding this concept or not. And I found they were not understanding, and then I was doing things, taking more time, and I found at the end of it that they were learning better, and then the results also showed that, right? This is also something that we see. The good thing about this art and science approach is that you need the art part for connecting with the child. It's like almost, I would say, the more important part. But you need the science part, which actually can make the learning, the improvement, a predictable process. So schools improving, children learning better is no longer something that I have to just try and hope for. I can actually make it a scientifically predictable process. The other good thing I would say is that, professions evolve. And I think a very clear analogy is journalism. If you remember the pre-television era, journalism was not a very well-paid profession, not a very coveted profession, because you were doing your work. There was really no visibility. It was not even that the news was particularly real time or anything like that. And so because of that, it was not necessarily attracting the best thing, which is a kind of a vicious cycle. And the moment television, live television, 24-hour news channels started off, this completely changed. And the biggest change was that, apart from the technology and the time part of it, the influence that news was having, newscasters were having, and so on. And this led to the kind of people coming into the profession, and the whole profession got a boost. If today you want to become a top journalist, it's now a very competitive process. The kind of journalism colleges that exist, and so on, everything changed. We see this kind of change happening in education now. We see this happening with teachers. I would say it has already started happening in international schools and certain places internationally. Because what is happening is people are realizing, even with the coming of AI and so on, that the ability to kind of prepare our children for this, if somebody is able to do that better, that has an immense value. Incidentally, this happened, you may be surprised, this happened with doctors in the early part of the 20th century. So doctors was actually a poorly paid profession. Like it was a struggle to, it was not poorly paid compared to other professions, but it was not a comfortable thing. Like doctors would make their own medicines at the back of their thing and so on. This is 1920s and 30s. There's a nice book called, by Lewis Thomas, called The Youngest Science, where he looks at how were doctors in those years and how it changed and how it is today. Today doctors are one of the highest paid professions. Why? Because of the science that supported the work of doctors. So this is going to happen in education also. And people who are able to teach in this way, and people to realize that if our children can learn better, this is worth a lot. So in terms of prestige, in every way it's going to happen. But it's a two-way process. It's related to the science that drives this work in education. And this brings us to the question of, like if you ask people, why did you become a teacher? A very common answer I think we all hear is, I became a teacher because I love children, right? And that's not a reason to, like it says here, loving children can be a motivation, but that cannot be the qualification. On the contrary, there are very concrete skills that I would have if I am a good teacher. And some of these could be something that you have a strength in. Somebody is, inborn, they are strong in it, but it is definitely something which is learned, practiced, honed, and you become better and better at that. And I'm just taking two examples here. Again, this comes from the research. One of them is the power to explain things clearly. So, if you're a teacher because you have this power to clearly explain things. It could be different kind of things that you explain. There's a story where this person is, in the street corner and he's asking for directions, and one person very clearly says, yeah, go here, do this. And that person says, wow, that was really clear. Are you a teacher? And so that's the meaning of, being able to explain really clearly. And the second, this is just two examples, that's not the only two. Systematic classroom management, right? So they say that an effective teacher, someone who is experienced, if they have to distribute worksheets in a class, they do it in 20 seconds, whereas it may take 4 or 5 minutes if you don't know how to do it and children start this thing and throwing it around, or just your class goes out of control and so on. So, and there's a long list, there are books on this where they've actually listed these skills. So teaching becomes more and more a profession, and remember, this is not to say that your ability to connect with the children, to tell stories is equally important. It is also a skill. So as these skills become more important, the effectiveness of teachers and what teachers are able to deliver will become important. And somewhere what we are saying is, what we are talking through EPIC, the research, this is at the base of all of this. We must treat pedagogical skills with the same seriousness as engineering or medicine. There has been talk, there is actually, there was a talk of an Indian Institute of Education, Indian Institute of Teaching. You do have some of them already kind of coming up, being conceptualized, but this is what we see happening to the profession of teaching. The other way of looking at this is that, if you look at an organization like McKinsey and any of these top consultancy firms, right? So one of the characteristics of these firms is that they're always in demand. I remember somebody saying that even in the worst recession, the McKinsey consultant will fly business class, because even in that, when there's a recession also, companies will come to them and say, give them a lot of money to say, please help us get out of this recession, right? So they're always in demand. Now, to me, a school and a McKinsey are very, very common, right? What is common between them is that both of them rely completely on the human resources that they have. All that they have is that. They are not manufacturing a product. They are not offering any service apart from what these people are offering. So in that sense, they are both completely people-led. And if that is the case, why is it that we treat someone like McKinsey as, okay, obviously they are like super rich and they are going to be, always flying business class, but schools are like kind of resource poor. And this need not be the case. Again, if we realize that the teacher is a super person who has this ability to, what is the most important thing we need, to kind of take children to the next level, then this is where, so all of things we've talked about, the profession kind of goes to the next level, schools go to the next level. This is already happening in pockets, right? There are schools that are kind of getting there. Like, my school is so good at this that others reach out and we kind of do stuff. And I'm saying there is already happening in small ways. You see elements of this, but it's still not something that is systematic, that is happening regularly. Now, what is the impact of all this? And this is the actual graph is just symbolic, but this is actual data. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. So we have been doing asset for many years, and we started in the UAE in the early 2000s, right? So Dubai, UAE, and of course we've been doing it in India also. Now, what did we find? We found that the performance of the Dubai schools was below the Indian average when we started off. We were a little surprised because we thought Dubai is a rich country and why is it happening? And then people told us Dubai is a rich country, but if you look at who are and we were working largely with Indian schools, who are the Indian expatriates who go there? They're often, not necessarily the most educated. They're often people who are going unskilled labor and so on. This was especially true in the early 2000s. And hence, even the schools, though they are large and have lots of students, their facilities are not so great. The quality of teachers is not so great. And hence, it's not surprising that the schools are not doing great. So we understood, yeah, this was the case. In 2012, Dubai made some decisions to say that, we want to really improve. We want to get in the top and so on. And they did a number of things, right? They did a number of things. In fact, this action has been kind of recognized internationally. They performed their performance in international tests like PISA went up. But we were surprised to see that now, today, if I look at the asset overall performance or the top schools, 60 to 65% of the top schools are, because it's the same test, right? Same CBSE schools, ICSE schools, Indian principals, Indian teachers, very, very similar to the schools here. And when they take the asset test, they take the same test that is taken here. The same test on which they were performing below international average. They are now performing at the top. If I look at the top set of schools, 60 to 65% are coming from Dubai and the UAE. How did that happen? Again, a systematic set of actions which builds the capacity of teachers, is based on research, and actually helps take this to. And again, research is not a fancy word. It's not about publishing papers alone, though sometimes it can be that also. It is about doing things systematically, looking at evidence, building on evidence, and so on. In India too, so finally the goal of all this is that, how do we do this to raise the level of the standards of the living of the large number of people? In the last few years, we all know that, before this, if I go back 30 years, I don't think there were that many examples where you were saying, okay, here is something innovative that India has done on a competitive basis. Now that has changed, right? We know whether it is something like UPI or Aadhaar or many things happening today, that we are doing things which are internationally recognized as globally innovative and so on. And I think that education is the next opportunity, where we can do this. And we are not yet there. It's something we still have to do. It is challenging. But that opportunity exists, and all of this to me connects, a teacher's level increasing, and the core of all this is the research that we need to do. So yeah, this is my last slide. So the whole goal of EPIC really is to help towards this kind of a movement. So on the route, you want to raise the level of teachers, you want to build this community, but with that, students learn better, the levels of schools rises, so that this means that the country does better and the standards of living go up. Now for this, so we've done it one time. I want to really call out the team members, Ashwini, Nisha, Saika, Samta, Swati, they are all here. But we don't want this to be an effort that is restricted to them or to EI only. So we also want to think of meta and invite ideas from all of you to make this a community-based thing, to do this year on year, to recognize teachers who are doing this, so that we are able to actually make this kind of change that we want to do in education and in research. So thank you once again. Thanks to the team for putting this together. Thanks for all of you being here, and have a great day.
Thank you, Sridhar. Lovely. In fact, he laid out very beautifully why there is a need for a research culture within our classrooms. In fact, we have millions of data points at EI that show that some of these effects are compounding across years. So a classic example is when you ask children what is larger, 0.19 or 0.2. You can take a guess at what they pick. They're like, okay, 19 is larger than 2. So, and you see that sort of thinking percolate across years. But moving on.
And thank you, Ashwini. In fact, our next speaker will expand on this idea that teachers are not just consumers of research, they're also active collaborators to it. He argues that children think in ways that may seem a little strange to adults, and to teach effectively, we need to see classrooms slightly differently. We need to treat classrooms not just as a place of delivery, but as an active site for observation.
Our next speaker is a researcher in mathematics education. He was formerly a professor and center director at the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, Mumbai. His main area of work for the last 3 decades has been the improvement for the learning and teaching of school mathematics through professional development workshops and through his research.
He has published a number of papers and has supervised 8 PhD dissertations. His contribution is to the work of curriculum and textbook committees and to in-service teacher professional development across India. Please give a huge round of applause to our keynote speaker, Dr. Ravi Subramaniam. Please, sir.
Can you see me if I stand here? Everyone? Yeah? Or should I go onto the stage? Okay, all right. Yeah, sure. So good morning, everyone, and let me begin by congratulating EI and the EPIC team on this wonderful initiative, and congratulations to you two for successfully going through these stages, being here. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for this invitation. So I think I want to sort of begin by referring to what Sridhar said about teachers growing their expertise in the course of their profession, about teachers doing research, and so on. Lesson study is also one of the favorite examples that I give. It was what inspired me when I did my first project in teacher in service professional development. So there are countries like Japan where lesson study is done, where there is a tradition of teachers doing research. There are other countries too. In fact, several East Asian countries, Korea, China, even parts of Europe like Finland, teachers have a high status. They have professional activities that help to grow their knowledge and so on. So why is it that some countries, particularly post-colonial countries like India, don't have this culture is a question that often comes up. And many people think, and I heard this a couple of days ago from an educationist, Dr. Sajita Bashir, who was involved with the World Bank and many projects, including the DPEP project, I think in the 90s. So it seems to be some kind of a legacy of the colonial era, where teachers were seen in a very restricted role. This implementers of the curriculum, assessment, examinations, and so on. And what was to be learned was decided by someone and for specific purposes for jobs and so on. So that kind of, education is something that we've been trying to overcome ever since independence, but I suppose it's a long haul. And initiatives like this will make a big difference, I'm sure, to empowering teachers to become professionals in a real sense. Okay. So today my talk is going to be about what is one of the things that teachers can do in terms of research in the classrooms. Okay, voice is there, person is missing. Okay, so what I want to talk about is understanding children's thinking better. So I've called it Opening Windows into Children's Thinking. So that's the outline of my talk. It's just a couple of examples really, 2-3 examples of children's thinking. Okay, why is understanding children's thinking important? I think you saw some examples already in the previous presentation. Right, it's teachers, when they know what children are thinking, they can respond much better, more effectively. It's like if you go to the doctor has to first make a diagnosis, right, and give you medicines according to what you need. So it's not just dumping what is there in the syllabus on the children, but kind of responsive to where children are. And that's the principle of constructivism, that you start from where children are. So understanding children's thinking often requires study. It's not obvious. Of course, in the course of teaching, we come to know something about how children think. But it can be surprising because you may discover things if you really study. And one of the pioneers in this was Piaget, whom all of you have heard about in your, maybe in your teacher education courses. Now, my point also is that in the classroom, interacting with the students, teachers have plenty of opportunity to do this sort of research and study. As many of you have already done, you've realized, but perhaps the message has to be taken further. And of course, these studies will make teaching enjoyable, it will enrich teaching, make it more effective, and so on. Okay. So let me begin with this example about children's views about the earth. This is from some research which was done, I think, in the 80s, so several decades ago, and something that we found very interesting. And children hear from adults, from textbooks, from the media, from others, that the earth is round in shape, right? But that contradicts their experience. And when you look around, you don't see any round earth, right? So your ground is flat. So what happens? What do children really think? Do they think the earth is round, or do they think that the earth is flat? What do you think? Flat? Okay. One thing is that children are quite creative. They need to reconcile these things, right? They have to put these things together. What they know from experience and what they hear from adults. They can't ignore what adults say. So they come up with some sort of combination of these things, and which can be quite surprising. So what do you really think? I mean, do they think it's flat or round or both, maybe? Okay, so here is one example. It's not very surprising, it's not strange. So they think it's round like a chapati or a disc, right? And we are sitting on top. So it's both round and flat. Of course, there are other children who simply ignore what the adults say and they just think that it's flat. So that's one. So these are some ideas that were uncovered, but these are not really not surprises, something that you could guess. Here is another set of ideas that children have, that they live on the round earth, which is like a sphere, but it's on top or it's slightly flattened. So different children have different ideas about this. So this is not very surprising, right? But there are children who, here is another idea of what children think. So they think that we're inside the round earth, it's like a fish bowl, and then the ground is flat. And here again there are two versions of this, that there's an open sky and then the stars are beyond, or that the sky itself is the top of the fish bowl. So, I mean, these sort of detailed views or images are hard to find out unless you do some probing. So that's what that study did. This was a study by a couple of researchers from the US. One was actually Greek, the other was American. So they probed children with a lot of systematic kind of questions, very interesting and fascinating paper, and then they elicited these views and they could distinguish these views. Not that children held them consistently, sometimes they flipped from one model to the other, but several children did stick to some of these. And finally, my favorite one. By the way, I should ask, did some of you have these images when you were children? Yes? Yeah. Okay, so several people nodding. This always happens when I talk about this to teachers. Some are smiling because they remember this is what they taught when they were a kid. And this, I wonder if any of you thought of this. Can you guess what this is? The last one on the right? Okay, both of them are the same. I mean, they're part of one idea, not two different ideas. So this is called the twin earth model. So they think that the earth, which is round, is somewhere there in the sky, and the earth that we live on is flat. So this is another idea that they had, and it was quite fascinating. Of course, so what do we learn from this example? Children's ways of thinking are different and creative, right? So it's worth probing into them, finding out, and then tailoring your teaching accordingly. The ways of thinking are not obvious, need to be probed, and they were discovered only by these systematic research studies. If teaching is to be effective, teachers need to have an understanding of children's thinking. I think this is kind of obvious, we don't need to argue. And most importantly, telling is not teaching. So sometimes many teachers think that, okay, if students have made a mistake, then what you need to do is to repeat the correct thing, right? You tell them again and again. So, but telling is not. So what children receive, what they hear, is not taken as it is. It always interacts with something that they already possess. That's, again, constructivism. That's the reference. Vosniadu's Greek, Brewer, they all, it's an old paper from 1992. The research was done in the 80s, I think. Okay. So part of the teacher's work, the teacher's knowledge and expertise is to be aware of these different ways in which children think. But that's not enough, right? How do you deal with it? You need some creative. We just saw that telling is not teaching. So it doesn't help to just repeat, to tell that, no, the earth is round, no beta, we are here, so this earth is round, etc. Doesn't usually work. Okay, so misconceptions, alternative conceptions, errors, these are other words that are used in the literature. But just knowing about them is not enough. Okay, so here is an exercise that let's do this. So this is a kind of imaginary exercise. You can close your eyes if you like. But imagine you're holding a small ball. small ball in your hand, right? Like a table tennis ball. So you can completely enclose it in one hand. Now you take a slightly bigger ball, like a tennis ball, right? It becomes bigger. Now you hold an even bigger ball, like a football. Right? The palm becomes a little flatter. Nice observation. And then you take maybe a basketball or something, right? Really big ball. And then if you have a huge balloon-like ball, then you need two hands to hold it, right? So it's getting bigger and bigger. And now there's a leap of the imagination. So now this is from some work done at my center. So now what they did was they asked the children to lie down flat on the ground with their hands outstretched, right? Flat on the ground. And then imagine that you're holding the biggest ball you can ever imagine, right? And that's the earth. So this kind of a leap of the imagination, right, it creates a certain sense that, okay, so really, the very big thing can be very flat. So it's a wonderful example, one of my favorite ones, by Shamin Padalkar and Jayashree Ramdas. Jayashree is a very senior researcher in science education. Shamin now teaches at IISER Pune. She was actually a dancer who trained Kathak dancer. And one of the things she did was to bring these embodied strategies, embodied cognition, we say, into teaching and learning, particularly, and astronomy education was her field. So daily events in astronomy, things that we are familiar with, how do we make it more effective? So there's a whole lot of design gestures that she came up with in the course of her PhD, and which helps to teach astronomy. So you can look it up if you like. Very fascinating work. And it's an example of kind of research which can be done by teachers and helps their teaching directly. Very great fun too. I mean, this is exciting stuff. Okay. Now this is another work which actually I did with Shamin when she was doing PhD. And this is about the phases of the moon. You know what the phases of the moon are? The moon changes shape, right? And full moon to crescent moon to new moon. And now we are, if you look up at the sky, anyone see the sky yesterday? Yeah. Closer to the full moon, not yet full moon. And do you know what that shape is called? The gibbous, yeah. We have a glorious gibbous shape of moon in the sky today, yesterday, and so on. So maybe you can check it today. So what causes the moon's phases? Why does the moon change its shape? What do you all think? Due to the shadow? Shadow of the earth? Okay. Right. So this is a very common idea. And this is the correct explanation for the lunar eclipse, which happens once in a few months, once a year maybe. But it's not the correct explanation for the moon's phases, which changes almost every day, right, and every month. The month is actually the change of the phase, right, one cycle. So what's really happening? Why is it that people get this other explanation so frequently? So this is something that we studied. Others have also studied this. So what causes the phases? So many people, even those who are educated in science, we found this among MSc students, MSc physics, etc., right? So they think that it's because the shadow falling on the moon. Sometimes they think it's not correct, but they don't really come up with the right explanation. So in the study, we asked people to make some drawings. And here is someone trying to explain how the phase is caused by the Earth's shadow and so on. So it doesn't really work. And to probe it further, we asked them to draw the shape of the crescent moon. Everybody knows. Full moon, everyone knows. Half moon is easy. But what about the gibbous shape, right? The gibbous shape, okay. So you could have the gibbous shape like this, right? Which is not how it is actually, right? It's a bit very odd shaped thing. It's closer to this. So some get it right, but some get it. So this is the shape during the eclipse, not during the gibbous phase. Okay, so we did a lot of this probing, and here is someone who got the correct explanation through the drawing, but the shapes are not correct. So a full explanation clarity is quite hard. And what is the reason for this? One of the reasons is that what you need to do is to make a shift of perspective, right? It's very similar to the earth round and flat thing. You're standing here on the earth, what you see is very different from a perspective when, far away from earth, looking down at the solar system, the sun, moon, earth, and figuring out like what exactly is happening. Because the moon's phases are visible from the earth. When you look at the moon from a far away thing, always half the moon is lit, right, by the sun. It's always half. Half is dark, half is lit. But it's what you see from the earth that keeps changing. And one of the things that we found was it's very helpful for people to think of the moon's phase like a face, like a human face. So kind of humanizing this. Because when you can see it sometimes front full on, sometimes from the side, sometimes from the back, sometimes 3/4. So this gives an idea. So this was one of the interesting things that we found, that humanizing, we called it anthropomorphizing. So is very helpful. So it helps to see the, so why is explaining the phases so difficult? It involves a change of perspective from earth-based to space-based, and coordinating these two perspectives is very hard. You need to move back and forth for different situations and coordinate. It's really hard. So it's not easy. No wonder that people think it's because of the shadow, right? Because shadow is very simple and easy to understand. So our study found that humanizing the moon is helpful. Coincidentally, we found an old video that actually uses this approach to explain the moon's phases. And this video, I think, was made in the 1970s. I heard about it from Arvind Gupta, who's a well-known educationist, and it was made by another science educationist, Vijay Verma's daughter, I think, Anita Verma, long back, and with very limited. So I'm going to show you a clip. It's still there on YouTube, and it's quite fascinating.
तो इधर आ जाए छाया।
So there's a kind of lamp, a street lamp, and these children are playing, right? So there's just one source of light. So it's a little bit like the, okay, carry on.
रोशनी में खेलो, गोल गोल घूमो, देखो चेहरा कैसे बदलता जाए।
Okay, so it's a nice little video, nice principle. Of course, it may or may not be effective with your students. You have to really try it. But many people have tried various things. One is to hold a sort of ball which is attached to a rod, and then there's a light source, and then you make half the ball like a face or something. Then you see as you move around how the thing changes, right? Because of the changing orientation of the light. So this is another technique. So there are many things that I've been tried, you can, okay. So that's my second example. So we watched that. The full video is there on YouTube. I think if you say Anita Verma Phases of the Moon, it should work. That's the YouTube link in case it can be shared later. Okay. So let me make a small digression, 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. So this is about pedagogical, right, what knowledge is needed to teach effectively. Of course, you need to know the subject matter. If you're teaching physics at high school level, you need to know the physics at high school level. You need pedagogical skill knowledge, etc. You need knowledge about children psychology, which you probably learn in your teacher education course, B.Ed course, etc. Anything else? Okay. So I don't know if many of you have heard of this term called pedagogical content knowledge. Have you heard of this term? PCK, it's called. Now it's started to come into the syllabus of teacher education by Lee Shulman, who wrote in the 1980s, very powerful articles. So he said that it's not enough to know the content and the pedagogy separately. You need an amalgamation of the two, right? So a central contribution of the work of Shulman and his colleagues was to reframe the study of teacher knowledge in ways that included direct attention to the role of content in teaching. And this was a radical departure from the research of the day, which focused almost exclusively on general aspects of teaching, such as classroom management, time allocation, or planning. And I think there were wonderful examples in Sridhar's presentation you saw of what is meant by pedagogical content knowledge. Content specific, but required for teaching, not required for engineers or others, because for the purposes of teaching. Okay, so that's quotes from Shulman, special amalgam of content and pedagogy. That's uniquely the province of teacher. And then he gives some examples. The most powerful analogies, illustrations, examples, explanations, demonstrations, etc. Some things I showed, also including children's alternative conceptions, ideas that they have. So this is my last example. My work is mainly in math education, and so this is about fractions. Right? It's about adding fractions. All of you know how to add fractions, right? I mean, I'm asking this because not all of you are teaching mathematics, and some of you are left that far behind. So anyway, half plus half is 1, you know all that. So that's half plus 1/4 is 3/4. That's easy to know. So here is a student. Here is a puzzle for you. A student in the class had added fractions like this. 3/7 plus 2/3 is 5/10. Is this right? No. So you know that, right? That's good. So she's added the numerators and the denominators separately written, right? So when the teacher asked the student why she had done it in this way, the student said that her father had taught her. Oh, terrible. The teacher explained that this method was wrong. On the following day, there was a complaint from the father. He pointed out that the teacher had added exactly like his method. This was his example. Marks in history, 35 out of 50. Marks in geography, 24 out of 50. Total marks in social studies, 35/50 plus 24/50. That's 59/100. So how would you respond to the parents' criticism? This is the puzzle for you. So what's happening here? And what would you say? Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Visual observation is that for a child, the visual observation is that the denoms in the father's example are same.
Are same.
While in the example which teacher has given, the denoms are not same.
Okay.
Just visual observation, leaving
All
the
right.
math part.
Fair enough. That's right. but I could have a subject where, like, say, history and civics, let's say political science, where history gets 75% weightage and civics gets 25. So then you would have different denominators, but you do the same thing. So, yeah, so that's not a sufficiently convincing explanation. So something else is probably happening. Okay, so let's move ahead, because usually we do this over discussion over half an hour, 45 minutes. We don't have that time, right? So what's really happening? So there are two different kinds of operations on fractions that we do. One is the standard addition, right? So which is like here you are. So we add on measures. For example, I drank half a glass of milk and 3/4 glass more. So the total that I drank is more than 1 glass, right? So it's 1 1/4 of a glass of milk. So this is kind of adding on measures. When fractions indicate qualities, that's the quantitative measures of quality, we often pool the corresponding quantities together. So in the first year, 1 out of 2 satellite launches were successful. In the second year, 3 out of 4 were successful. So what is the overall rate of success? We add the numerators and the denominator. So the operation that you do, so I've used a different symbol here. In mathematics often that's done. So you use a different symbol to indicate that it's a different kind of operation. Nevertheless, it's a legitimate operation. It's not addition. It's sometimes called combining ratios. Yeah, so you combine the ratios, or you pool the corresponding quantities together. That's another way of describing this. So I don't think, anyway, let me just go through this. Can I take a minute more? Yeah? Okay. So this is a sort of equal sharing way of teaching fractions, and I want to show you the application of that principle here. So which is sort of interesting. So one thing to begin is that when so many rotis, say 2 rotis are shared among 3 children, you can write the share of each child directly. It's 2 by 3. It's straightforward. So every division situation works like this, because fraction is actually a symbol for division. It's the outcome of a division process, like a shorthand. So of course we show that to kids that 2 divided by 3 is 2 by 3. Now you compare these shares, right? 2 by 3, 3 by 4 and 3 by 5. 3 by 4 and 3 by 5 is easy to compare because the same number of rotis, there are more children here, so they're going to get less, smaller share. So this fraction is smaller than this. But what about this? If the rotis are more, children are also more. Same thing here. Rotis are more, children are more. How do you compare? So what we do is, of course, standard ways are equal in fraction, but here is a different way. So we split this group into 2, and the left-hand side, the subgroup, is the same as here, right? So they get the same share exactly. Now the remaining child gets a bigger share because he gets a whole chapati. So if they have to get equal shares, he has to give something to the others. Right? They have to pool. So as a result, these people get more than this. So everybody gets more. So it's 2 by 3 is greater. Right? So this is, what about here? How does it work here? Again, you split it into 2 groups. So this one is the same as this. And this subgroup here gets only a half, which is more than this because this is 3 halves plus something more, right? So they get a little less. So these people have to give something there when they pool. So everybody, they get little less, and so it equalizes. So you see that this group as a whole is less than this. So this is another way of, so you kind of use the same thing of pooling together the resources, and then you find that when you pool together, it's always between these 2 fractions, 2 by 3 and 1 by 1. And here too, 2 by 3 and 1 by 2. So 3 by 5 is in between those 2 fractions. something that, so there are lots to learn, and sometimes these things are part of when you probe children's thinking. Right? Okay, this is an example I'm not going to discuss. It's there, it's an EI study, it's very fascinating. It's again one of my favorite examples, and there's lots to learn from this example. I'll point you to that video. They have a nice YouTube channel, and look under the playlist Misconceptions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Trust a mathematician to stick to the time, right? So I actually implore you to go and check out what work the center does, which is pretty amazing. So we've had the good luck of visiting the center in 2016, and we met somebody who was working on a project to teach mathematics concepts to children born blind. That was fascinating. There was another researcher who was working on how to model the cell, the human cell, as a 3D object for the child's mind. Because often that flat picture in the textbook, children take the misconception that it's a 2D thing. So some very, very cool comic books in biology being created. So some pretty cool stuff being done at the center. So I'd like to invite Sridhar to felicitate Dr. Ravi. So a small memento from us. So if you could just come to the stage again. And on that note, we shall break for tea. It's laid out right outside.
Yes, and please be back by 11:15. It's a 30-minute break because we would like to, have some anticipation for the next segment. Up next, we have the stars of this epic conference, the winners who will bring classroom stories to you, right? So we'll see you in 30 minutes. Tea is served outside. Thank you so much.
Okay, so moving the session ahead.
Yeah, so this session is called Innovators in Action, and it's the culmination of the competition component of EPIC. That was some alliteration. Thank you so much, Pranav. Gracious.
All right, so you surprised us with the kind of papers that you sent in. There's a little bit of moment of truth, a moment of honesty. So because this is the very first time that we're doing this, we expected maybe a small number of papers, a small amount of interest, and then it'll be a quick small event and that'll be it. But we received not one, not 5, not 10, but 26 very high quality papers. So kudos to all of you. Kudos to all the participants who sent in the submissions. Like Shivangi had mentioned, we had 260 registrations, 120 abstracts, and 50 full papers, of which 26 are in the top special mentions. So starting first with the winner of the segment.
Yeah, so in fact, I would like to add on that the 3 teachers that are about to present the paper stood out not only because they are fantastic teachers, but they also thought like scientists, which means that they looked at a specific problem, they went back to their classrooms, and they made a list of observations that was supported well with evidence, which connects to all the talks that we have. And yeah, so can we have a round of applause for Miss Heama KV? And Ashwini, would you like to introduce her paper?
Certainly. So the format of the presentation would be 20 minutes for the presenter to present their work, the paper that they've written, and 10 minutes at the end, time permitting, for audience questions. So keep your questions ready. We'll come with the mics to you. Our first place winner joins us from Padma Sheshadri Bal Bhavan, Senior Secondary School, Chennai. Her intervention began with a small observation. A student who actually scored 99% in electricity ends up leaving the fan running in an empty room. Where others might have been irritated by this incident and moved on, she turned it into a classroom experiment.
And wrote a paper on it called Ripple Pedagogy, a way to integrate the head, the heart, and hands. Please welcome Ms. Heama KV from PSBB Senior Secondary School, Chennai, who is the winner of the EPIC conference. Please, ma'am. Please keep your questions ready. Anshali is here with us and she'll be helping us, gather your questions once Heama ma'am presents. Ma'am, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So that is the way we greet our teachers in our school. A very good morning to one and all here. I thank the EPIC team for giving me this space to share my humble classroom research findings to all the distinguished educators here. Thank you EPIC team. So my research paper is titled Ripple Pedagogy. So if you look at what I was actually trying to do is reimagining, it's a design-based pedagogical intervention. So I consciously moving the child from conceptual mastery to ethical agency. So this was basically my whole research was about. And that is one of my favorite quotes from Aristotle. So educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. So that has stuck with me right from the days when I did my B.Ed, I think about 3 decades back, and I still hold it very close to my heart. So what led me here? What was the trigger? So as you can see this photo here, it is a classroom, grade 10 classroom, right? The lights are on, the fans are on, and there is no student there in the classroom. And that was my provocation. So does academic excellence automatically translate into civic praxis? Are we raising children who are constantly focused on getting grades? So this is the high-stake board examination class, grade 10. So are we actually driving the children towards grades, or are we developing them into responsible citizens? What is the purpose of education if learning does not translate into responsible behavior? So this was my provocation. So this is my problem statement. So despite sustained academic achievement, formal schooling frequently produces learners with extraordinary academic content knowledge, right? But is that translated into responsible action? So all of us as teachers would definitely agree that there is this gap between cognition and conduct. So though we are consciously trying to address this gap, are we actually successful in doing it? Are we even making any effort? Forget about success. Are we consciously as teachers aware of this gap? So if you are going to be aware of the problem, then I think half the problem will be solved. So being aware of it is the main point here. So what I did was, I intentionally designed my classroom experience to close this gap, turning the learner from just focusing on academic grades into becoming responsible citizens. So my classroom, the entire research process was intentionally designed this way. So where did I take these ideas from? Right? It was basically at the intersection of our classical educational theories and what we modern educationists feel about. So I took it basically from 3 frameworks. So Aristotle, who we saw, right, educating the mind as well as the heart is very, very critical. And basically because I am a science teacher, I believe in hands-on learning. So experiential learning is another thing which is very close to heart. Do you all believe that experience teaches us lesson? We learn from experience. How many of you agree to that? Show by hands. Okay. What I feel is we don't learn from experience per se. We learn from reflecting on the experience. We learn from reflecting on the experience. I think that reflection is the beautiful infinite pause that many of us have totally taken it out of the system. Whether as teachers or as human beings, that pause for reflection is extremely important. So my whole process is focused on that reflection. And obviously the evergreen Bloom's taxonomy, right? So the head, heart, and the hands framework. So my Ripple pedagogy is basically standing on all these frameworks. You might ask, what is new in this? Because you have borrowed the idea from these three theories, what is yours? So what I feel, why did I give this term Ripple is, I felt it was giving direction to my framework. So when we visualize Ripple, you can see the direction, right? So it gives a directional component to my framework. That is why I chose that name. So I'm not looking at learning just as a passive action, but it has to be socially mediated, and the society should benefit out of what the schools are doing, right? Schools are the centers of knowledge. So how are these schools relevant to the society at large? So this is my conceptual framework. So at the center, as you can see, the individual cognition, right? So it all begins with the concept mastery. As dealing with high stakes class 10 students who will be sitting for their board exams, it is my responsibility obviously to train them to answer the board exam questions also. So they have to get the conceptual mastery over the topic. So that is my primary responsibility as a teacher. So once I cover that inside the classroom, so I am moving my learning space out of the classroom, out of the labs, into the institutional campus. So personally I feel that every square inch of the school should be a learning space for the child. Learning should not be restricted to the four walls of the classroom, or to the computer labs, or to the math labs, or to the science labs. So whether the child is in the canteen, or whether it is in the morning assembly, or wherever he is, there should be some kind of learning that should be happening. So I'm taking it out into I'm covering the entire institution as a learning space. And then it is also very important, I'm taking it to the family. From the family, I'm taking it out into the larger community. So you can see that the ripple is happening from the classroom out into the school corridors and the campus, into the family, and into the society at large. So I deliberately, intentionally designed my pedagogy so that it ensures all this coverage happens. And so this also aligns with NEP 2020, which makes it necessary that the child develops into a global citizen. Gone are the days that a teacher's role is not just about transacting the curriculum, right? So we are focusing too much on the content delivery and no, actually the covering of the syllabus when we should be uncovering the syllabus for the children, right? So now what is the role of the teacher? What do you think is the role of the teacher now? Is it just about content delivery? Are we just transacting the curriculum? Because students have got other ways to get information, right? So what is our role? How has our role changed? Facilitator, right? So what are we supposed to facilitate, right? You are facilitating, right? But then we are there not just as deliverer of content, right? But somebody there to inspire the children, to ideate, to innovate, to inspire. They are looking at you for inspiration, not just for content coverage, right? So what did I try? So as I told you, my sample was class 10 students, 40 in numbers, and I took the electricity chapter because this research actually happened during the period when I was dealing with electricity chapter as per my syllabus coverage. And I employed a mixed research methodology. I went for a mix of qualitative and quantitative. You might ask, why did I choose a mixed methodology? because it involves head, hand, and the heart, right? So it is not just about some numbers. So my research, yeah, you see the spiral bound there. It is all my work, the children's work. So there are a lot of numbers, there are a lot of graphs, which I'm going to put it up on the screen. But there was much more to these numbers and graphs, which I felt personally in the classroom, which the children felt in the classroom. So I felt that it has to be definitely a mixture of both quantitative as well as the students' feedback and what were their voices, right? And this was the cycle that I took. As I explained, the first one was the conceptual foundation. So basically the usual teaching learning process, and the concepts were consolidated with lab activities, with worksheets. And once the children mastered the basic concepts, they went out into the family. So as you know, in class 10, they learn how to calculate the monthly energy consumption in a household. So it is not just about the skill of calculating the bill and getting 3 out of 3. I said get back to the homes and find out what is your monthly bill. Talk to your parents. Find out how, is it high or is it low? So have a discussion with your parents, right? You will be surprised that many students, many children will not be aware of the monthly bill at all. They will not be aware of it, right? So I asked them deliberately to make this kind of discussion with their family members. And then these discussions didn't stop there, right? So as I told you about that beautiful reflection. So this is where I concentrated. So students came back into the classroom and there was a lot of reflection, right, on this. So they actually started discussing about, hey, did you know that you should not switch on the AC when you're switching on the geyser, right? And there were students who did not score well in their exams, but they were contributing so much to the discussion. And it didn't stop with that. There were a couple of students who went on to really do some hands-on project, like how to go for alternate sources of energy. There was this couple of students who were not very good academically, but they came out with a brilliant project of extracting energy source from cow dung. So much so that we went up to the Youth Ideathon national competition organized by CBSE, and I'm proud at this point to say that our school has ranked among the top 10 for School of Excellence in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So that is what we are looking at, right? And then, so there was a lot of discussion in the classroom, and all those students whom I have never noticed not talking, they came out with so many brilliant ideas. And there were a lot of project works, there were fights, there were arguments, yes, there were debates. The class was messy, yes, I agree, yes. I had a lot of difficulty in organizing them to make meaningful conversations. There were distractions. There were few people who were actually hijacking the conversation, yes, but then there was a good engagement and there was a lot of learning, which I, as a teacher, thoroughly enjoyed the mess, I should say. And so these were the student designed awareness initiatives. It went up to the national level. And here I want to share that one child came back and told me, like, in their community, in their campus, like, people were not ready to invest on solar because they said, it seems the secretary said it is very, very expensive. And this girl did a lot of, campaign about it, and then said, hey, listen, it is just one-time investment. Return on investment is much more. So the student of class 10 has become a salesperson, right? So in fact, and she actually made the secretary agree to install solar panels, and today that flat apartment has got solar panels. So she was really proud when she came and shared this with others. So okay, this is basically a research, right? So there should be some credibility to my work. So I designed a questionnaire, pre and post, where I took 4, I'll be showing that, I took 4 attitudes, right? Right from the conceptual mastery to ethical agency. So I took the conceptual mastery, collaboration, responsibility, agency, and I designed the questionnaire and pre and post. And then we had basically rubric assessment, what we have, the formative assessments, summative assessments, the school exams for testing their concept mastery, and the students maintained reflective journals, and all that has been filed there as maybe when you are during the break time, people can have a look at it. And so I actually triangulated the quantitative and the qualitative data. So I want to give a disclaimer here. So as I told you, I have some numbers, I have some charts, but the real transformation is much more than what is projected on the chart, right? So there were a lot of constraints. As I told you, it's a high-stake board examination class, and you will ask me, as teachers, I have a lot of difficulty in completing the portions. Where am I going to try out all this? But I have tried out, and I am here as the as a teacher who advocates, like as a teacher we teach 3 times, right? Unconsciously we teach 3 times. You say once and then you repeat and then you revise, right? You can remove the second stage. That repetition can be replaced by reflection. So that repetition can be replaced by reflection. So learning happens better when it is child-centric. When you put the child in the center, definitely you can replace the second time of repeating into student and teacher reflection. The learning becomes much more complete. So these are my quantitative data. So problem solving, pre and post, as you can see, it has improved. Obviously, students improved with more tests and more worksheets, more one-on-one help if they require, scaffolding if they require. And the second one is the collaboration, right? Initially, there were a lot of, children being children, there were a lot of, each one wanted to take the lead. But then over a period of time, they understood that it involves team effort and one person cannot decide, right? So as you can see, there is definitely no regression anywhere here. And the third one was the ethical responsibility, and the last one was agency. So these are my data for 40 students. See, if you look at student 3, from 2 to 4, 2 to 4, 2 to 4. Yeah, there were some challenges, because when I gave that Likert scale 1 to 5, the human tendency is to circle the middle value, central mean tendency, right? So during the pre-questionnaire sessions, students mechanically circle that 3 because that is how the human brain works, right? But then they realized, and then the data became more and more valued. And this is another one sample of what the children brought from their household consumption. They actually went about looking at the wattages of their appliances and also how many hours it was used. They were actually they did this from their homes, not from any textbook, not from any NCERT textbook or not from any books, but these sums were designed from their own homes. And it made a lot of sense to them. So as you can see, the trend is, there is no regression anywhere, small changes, but yes, definitely. And you can see the biggest change is in problem solving and in agency. So that is what I was looking for. So how did I collaborate, right? So this is the key slide, the triangulation, where if you look at the first one, I took 4 areas, right? Problem solving, quantitative, the score increased from 2.82 to 4.12. But that is not what I was looking for. What was the change in the heart? We figured solutions ourselves, not just formulas. And the shift was from teacher-led to inquiry-driven. So the whole focus shifted from teacher to student-centered. And cognitive gains translated into reasoning ability. So that is what competency-based education is all about. CBSE says, develop competency-based, develop competency. How is it going to develop if you don't trust the children and put them in the center inside the classroom? Allow them to make mistakes, allow them to reflect, allow them to find for themselves. Only if you are going to give them that space and time, then you can establish competency in them. And then collaboration, yes, there is improvement. Quantitatively, it reduced conflict, shared responsibility, and automatically a leader emerged from the group. So that also developed their leadership skills. And the third one was ethical responsibility. Students reported switching off appliances at home. There was one parent who called up and said, ma'am, I don't know what you did, but my son is going about, he has become the energy auditor in the house. He keeps coming behind me. He says, switch off the, this, switch off that. He has become an energy auditor, right? So that was the responsibility that the students were taking, and they actually went about, we had other sessions also for the juniors. So these children went about giving presentations to the juniors on how to conserve energy at home. So this was a ripple effect that I was trying to create, and I personally felt that it may not be very great, but there was some change definitely I could see as a teacher in my students. So what were the challenges encountered? So like children being children, as I told you, initial data fabrication, all of them circled that mid value. So I had to go back and tell them the importance of this questionnaire and to be very honest and be very, very ethical in circling, and actually I had to redo the whole exercise, right? And yeah, it came with a lot of challenges. I won't say it was a smooth ride, it was a roller coaster ride, right? And with the quarterly exams here looming large and with the unit test looming large, but then as a teacher, how did I manage? I stole those 10 minutes from the homeroom period. I had a kind of, discussion over lunch. So over lunch, the students discuss, right? So what was the reflections, right? We all agree that exam success is not equal to lived responsibility. And strong learning became situated, ethical and transferable. See, traditional assessments don't test the quality of the children. It is just based on the marks. So ripple pedagogy repositions students as co-researchers. Teachers change from content deliverer, courier service to more like a facilitator. And process affirmed learning is messy, non-linear, complex. It is never linear, right? So is it relevant to the other educators? Yes, it is completely transferable across all subjects, across all grades, across all boards. You can bring this in social science, you can bring it in math, you can bring it in any literature, languages. It is completely transferable across grades and disciplines. So these are some of the evidences of my questionnaire, and these are the students' work. There were a lot of discussions, debates. These are the students' work as samples. So ripple pedagogy reframes the purpose of schooling from just content transmission to cultivating responsible agents. So when cognition, ethics, action converge, learning transcends the classroom and becomes a transformative experience. So I have a small video here, just 10 seconds.
They always say that school doesn't teach us real life stuff, but it isn't true. It's how we decide to use those applications in real life. Let it be maths, science, social, English. We have to learn from what we are taught and use it in our real life situations. For example, in physics, how energy is consumed in an appliance is taught to us as sums, but it's up to us to implement that in real life, which makes it both interesting and it makes us conscious of the energy we consume and
Thank you. So this is not pedagogy for exams, this is pedagogy for life. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Heema ma'am. I think my personal takeaway is, replacing repetition with reflection. And I think all of you would also agree with such a powerful takeaway. We'll open the floor for questions. Anshali is here with the mic, yes. And in the interest of time, we'll open for about 2 questions, so to say, yeah, and then proceed to the next one. Thank you so much, Heema ma'am. Can we have some questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Thank you for transforming a simple experience to a pedagogy. Ma'am, did you find any difference between the responses of boys and girls?
Actually, not in terms, in fact, from my experience in this limited sample, I found that the girls were more vocal. The girls were more vocal and the boys were more hands-on. So the boys were like thinking about what can I make. They were more interested in making something, making a model or making a kind of, alternate sources of energy. And the girls were more into, going around, talking, right? But there was a beautiful blend of both. I won't say it was polarized kind of thing, but it was a mix of both. Boys were doing I would say, less talking.
Thank you. One more question from the audience. Perfect. Ma'am's research is here. Please feel free to connect with her. Oh, we have? Okay, perfect.
Ma'am, do you think after this experiment of yours, will the children learn electricity as a topic differently in their classrooms?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I could see the transition happening because later when I went to the next chapter, magnetism, I could find that shift there. So when I talked about, the next chapter, when I went, they were able to relay this and they were trying to make sense of every concept into some kind of, lived action. So yes, definitely. Yeah, the board exam pressure is always there, but for the other classes which don't take up the board exam, I think it is a very, very useful option just to explore and reflect and debate and discuss. Definitely children like when we talk less and they talk more.
Thank you, ma'am. Because all these topics are related, right? Electricity, magnetism.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And very important concepts are taught in these topics. Like series, parallel connections with children.
That is non-negotiable. That was at the top of that was at the center of my ripple. So that is the stone. The concept is a stone that I am dropping in the water. The other associated gains are the ripples. So non-negotiable. The classroom concept discussion is non-negotiable. That is the stone. So these are all the accessories that we can extract out of that.
And how can other teachers benefit from your
Yeah, definitely. As I said, like social studies teacher, English teacher can integrate and they can write. There are so many social issues that are, who knows, there might be a journalist in your classroom, unidentified. So you can use an English class to debate, discuss and write on social causes. And there are a lot of social studies teachers can do it, and math teachers can actually go into, I think, learning is best done when when you get out of the classroom, right? So it is completely transferable across all. And it does not, I don't think the teacher has to be very creative because it is based on a framework, right? It is not based on the teacher's creativity, yes, but if the framework is there, you just have to fit in those pieces.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
You can tell that ma'am's classroom must be a very dynamic place, even without being in it.
And also a very messy place.
Messy place, okay. Thank you so much. So moving to second place, we have another fantastic paper. What you'll notice that all three papers are quite different, and the one thing that binds them together is the quality of intent, the high intent that goes behind all of them. So from National Public School, Kangeri, we have Miss Shilpa YB. Please, ma'am.
In fact, ma'am's paper tackles the passive learning problem in grade 9 English. We've all seen students who consume content but may or may not engage with it. She implemented a flipped classroom model to shift the culture from consumption to collaboration. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So before I begin, I would like to thank EI for giving this opportunity and my principal who said yes immediately when I put forth this abstract in front of her. Apart from all this, I have one more person in the room to thank. So, Anshula ma'am. I happened to attend one of her sessions conducted by CBSE for prospective resource person. And then there towards the end of the session, ma'am mentioned, so there's something called EPIC, it's happening here. So he shared the website address. So if you people are interested, go forward. So she is the one who led me the path, so I'm here. So before, yeah, thank you Anshula ma'am. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to quote, this is by one of the famous educationists, and the quote goes like this: classroom should be noisy. If noises are heard, then the learning is happening. If there are silence, it is mistaken for learning. So I never wanted my classroom to be very quiet. But I happened to meet one such classroom. Every year we meet different batches. So one such batch had entered this year. So where they are very quiet, silent, disciplined, always seated in the class. So I thought I need to work a different way to tackle this batch. I need to change my strategies. So then I thought and I came across flip pedagogy. Of course, I have used this in the other classes as well. It's been successful. But with this class, when I did it for Road Not Taken poem by Robert Frost, I think in 9th standard textbook, though all those are English teachers, they know. Yes, it worked well when the video was played and when the question answer session was going on, discussion was going on. Again, the next class, they were quiet. So then I thought I need to work something else, something more they need. So that's where I got this opportunity to look into their themes, and I happened to point at one of the team that they posted, so that is using technology effectively. Then I thought, why can't I blend this? So let me blend technology, and today's era is with digital world. So let me just blend this and check whether will I be successful or not. Yes. So from silence to voices, that's how I wanted to begin my paper. So reimagining that grade 9 English classroom through the flipped learning. I doesn't want to look my classroom like that. I want my classroom to be happening like this. So I doesn't want them to be very passive listeners. I want them to interact and I want them to collaborate. Okay. So what led me here? I already said that. Yes, that was a problem statement for me. How can I make this classroom involved in learning, not by just being a passive learner? So the flipped classroom, most of us know this pedagogy. So you will give a learning material in hand before to the students as a homework, so which they go through with that, and then when they come back to the classes, you take the classroom timings more into be activity oriented classes. Yes, this is of exactly a flipped classroom looks like. So you check with the problem. So I identified the problem, so it was less interactive. Then the question was, can a tech enhanced flipped classroom create an active and inclusive learning? And then I collaborated flipped classroom with technology. This is how the traditional model of flipped classroom looks like. Give them homework, come back in the class, engage them in activity, and then review and reflect with exit tickets. But I faced a problem here. So what was that? See, when I give them something as a homework for them, reading content or anything as such, next day when they came back, they were not prepared. Then what is the solution for that? So I just researched on few of the researchers who has taken care of this flipped classroom, getting into a classroom. Then I found this one of the educationist, Martha Ramirez. So she has given a different framework for this flipped classroom. Instead of giving them homework, you bring in that into the class. So whatever the content that you wanted to give them as a homework, so bring it in the class. So in the class, you do that flipped classroom so that you don't stress them with extra work. So that's what I did, and I also incorporated group activities. Some group activities were individual activities, some were paid, think, pair and share, and some of them were, yes, of course, in the group of 5. Yes, why did I try this? There was less engagement in the class. I wanted them to engage more. I wanted them to get into this collaborative activity. Oftentimes, I have seen that those who are studious, those who are always answering, they are into that. The others left out, low achievers, are always towards the corner of the classroom. I wanted everyone to get engaged. And yes, my learning outcome should be achieved. Then the perception shift. Like, I doesn't wanted them to carry the classroom which is very quiet. So I want them to get involved in the learning, enjoy the learning. And yes, there was a scalability, of course, because introducing digital teaching mode, definitely they are engaged. So how did I implement this? First, I took a consent from principal ma'am because I'm considering grade 9C as a sample. Then from the parents, of course, nowadays parents are very conscious what's happening in the class. Every day they have update and they shouldn't receive something else from the student backend. So I sent a consent form, I took the consent, and from the students as well, because they are the one who are going to get involved. So I need consent from them as well. And then I planned my lessons. Of course, flipped pedagogy needs some homework. It demands some homework from teacher as well. You can't just step into the class with your textbook. You need to work a bit. I planned my lessons. I have chosen Ei Puzzle. I think most of you have used this platform. It's a very good platform for all of us. Ei Puzzle is a platform where you get videos within the platform as well. You can use them, or else you can upload your own video. What is the advantage of bringing this Ei Puzzle into the classroom? Let me tell you. When you play the videos, you can give questions in between the video. You can like incorporate some certain questions to check their understanding and to also check their attentiveness in the class, whether they are going through that properly or not. And you can also get into a live mode. So there you can also check how many students have answered the questions, how many have given right answer, how many of them have given wrong. And then lot of other platforms also I use. Padlet, most of us know, so that was done. And then it also gave discussions. I gave them discussions in the classroom. They responded through the Padlet. So there, the advantage of this Padlet was their names are not revealed. So they were not conscious about thinking that whether my question, whether my answer is right or wrong. That hesitant was not there. And here, this was a 4-week pedagogy that I applied in the class, and I could see that by the 3rd week, the Padlet activity was filled. I will show that screenshot as well. The screen was filled. So where I initially started with 10-15 responses, by 3rd week, I could see that I received a lot of responses because they are not revealing their name. And then I did pre-intervention assessment because I wanted to compare with the traditional method of teaching with the intervention when I did with the digital method of teaching. So I did pre-assessment and post-assessment. That's where I got my graph and analysis of data. Then observation by my principal and educators. I made it a point that I get feedback from other teachers as well. It's not that I was able to implement. It shouldn't happen like the other teachers find it very difficult to implement. So I wanted to check with them as well. So there was an observation done by my principal ma'am as well as my fellow educators who also gave feedback. And I maintained my teacher observation journal in every class to check their engagement in the class, whether how many students were actively involved in this activity, whether this activity succeeded or not, what can I improve for the next class. And then I evaluated the intervention and I also received student feedback. There also I gave them choice not to reveal their names. So while they gave student feedback, I did it through MS Forms and I gave them option not to reveal their names so that let them express freely, and I should also get a honest feedback from them whether I was able to implement or not. Yes, Edpuzzle I have already spoken. Padlet was one. MS Forms I have used for surveys, exit tickets and comprehension responses to check. MS Teams was my platform to share all my resources, the links and everything. That's where I shared. And MindSpark, yes, we have EI MindSpark from last 2 years we are using in our school. That I use for grammar and I check their learning assessment there. I did for 2 chapters, 1 poem and 1 grammar. So 2 chapters, I don't know how many of your English teachers here? Yes. 9th grade, we have Road Not Taken, and that's a poem. And 1 chapter was Kathmandu. And then the next chapter was, I'm not getting the name of the chapter, I forgot. And one was this, yes, Happy Prince. I have a storybook also done on that. I was trying to get his name. Happy Prince, Kathmandu, then Road Not Taken, and then direct and indirect speech. Okay, so these were the evidence collected during the implementation, student work samples in the form of exit tickets, group task and the Padlet activity that they did, pre and post surveys in the classroom, then Edpuzzle analytics. Edpuzzle, one more advantage is it gives us grade book. Once you are done with your activity, you can download the grade book and it says clearly like how much time did the student take it to answer and whether the student revisited the video or not, how many times it was revisited, or that shows the understanding level of the child. And then student reflection log, I have a video feedback also, and then classroom photographs. So what was the key observations that I did? So it was increase in the participation, like yes, the main agenda was I wanted the classroom to be involved together. It's not that 1 or 2 people in the front rows will answer, the others will not. I wanted all of them to involve. Yes, I could see that. And those who were passive, they began to contribute in the group. When I say it's a group activity and when I'm telling that you are going to present it your activity, so I could see that all of them were involved. Yes, of course there was peer interaction and digital engagement was my evidence, like that gave me a complete idea like how many of them were involved, how many of them were not. And then Padlet boards, as I mentioned earlier, so it filled rapidly. What were the surprises that I noticed during this intervention? So unexpected positive outcome was like those who were socially reserved in the class, those who didn't mingle with everyone. When I shifted my classroom to computer labs, so all of a sudden they were involved, like they got into the learning, and I was taken up a role of facilitator, so my involvement was very less. The learning had happened completely from their side, so it was student centered learning. So I could say that all those who were like very reserved in the class, they opened up. And then learning analytics inside, of course, the Edpuzzle data showed that many students went back, revisited the videos to understand better. And the key insight was, of course, traditional classroom time. It's not that we can't do it, yes, of course, but 1 or 2 lessons, if you bring in this, definitely you could see the change in the class. So what are the challenges that I faced? Of course, time management during the group work. When you allot them group work, it's not that you can't, I was not able to limit their discussion. And then, of course, availability of computer lab. There is, we have 3 to 4 labs, but apart from my classes, there are other classes also should go on. So that was one challenge. But what I suggest is, instead of getting all the classroom to the computer labs, 1 or 2, yes. Of course, I want to mention here further, I think I'll mention that. yes, teacher's role shifted from instructor to facilitator, and yes, there is a homework for teacher definitely when you try to implement this. You have to work with the materials that you choose, and you need to be very careful while you are choosing it. And yes, of course, the clear instructions should be given for the smooth collaborative activity. What I might do differently next time when I implement this, maybe I will give a checklist for video viewing, like I want them to particularly to watch this particular span of video with the time duration, so that they come prepared for certain discussions where I want to raise questions. And I assign the group roles. This I missed it. I think by the time I did the third lesson I assigned, but first few lessons I missed this. Then I understood that I have to assign them role. I have to make some of them as a timekeeper, one should be a presenter, one should be work on the PPT and other things. So I missed that, next time I will do that. And offer videos with varied length, because there are different learning paces what I observed. So all children are not into the same pace, they need their own time to answer the questions also. When the live demo was put up by the 8Puzzle videos when they were running on, I could see that some of them took more time to answer certain questions. So I need to give them that. Yes, next time I will be doing that. And include interactive digital storybooks. This time I have included only one storybook. That was the click when I shared my digital storybook. So that was really, I received a wonderful responses from the students. Yes, that succeeded. So Padlet board showed increasing depth. So this was a reflection through the evidences, and observation notes recorded improved confidence in the students. How is it relevant? Yes, of course, it addresses the common classroom challenges, and it is possible for all of us to implement throughout all other subjects. And simple digital tools, those are all very, very simple digital tools that we can embed. It's not that difficult that you need to be tech savvy for that. And collaborative learning spaces definitely transform the classroom culture, you will see it. And the flexible framework, of course, adaptable with all other subjects as well. Yes, this is where I wanted to talk about. There is a short movie that is available in YouTube, Choices. This short movie clip runs for 3 minutes or 4 minutes as such. I use this for Road Not Taken. I think all of you will agree. That's one of a famous poem of Robert Frost. The main theme of the poem is decision making or the choices. And it's a silent movie, there is no dialogues. There are particular situations that the movie plays in. And I will definitely tell that after watching this movie, getting into this activity, doing all these things, whenever I gave a question related to Road Not Taken, if it is related to choices or decision making, I get fantastic answers. That's where I thought I am successful as a teacher. I implemented something, and we know 6 marks questions are not so easy to answer, be it a competency based or whatever it is. That elaboration is a skill. For me, it's a skill. So they were able to do it. They were able to relate to real life situations. After this, I also gave them an activity where I gave a tree picture with a fork shaped, because in the poem it's mentioned, and where they have to write the choices that they are going to make after their 10th grade. So which stream are they going to choose, and what are the different choices that they will consider, and how do you eliminate those choices to come to a decision. So they remember that activity and they remember the movie, and the answers are every time it's fantastic. Whenever I read any answer related to Road Not Taken question, I feel very happy. Then the second one was the Padlet activity. This was the initial Padlet activity when I started. The final one I'll show it towards the end of the slide, end of my presentation. And this is a storybook that I created using AI images and in Canva. I think Canva works wonderfully. I don't know how many of you use it. It works wonderfully and it's easy also to work. I just want to play this storybook.
The Happy Prince by O. Henry. Experience the power of empathy.
It's not playing. Yeah, ma'am.
The Happy Prince by O. Henry. Experience the power of empathy. He looked beautiful and proud, shining under the blue sky. The people admired him and called him the Happy Prince. When I was alive, I lived in a palace where sorrow was not allowed to enter. Now, from my high place, I can see all the sadness and misery of my city. How warm it feels to do a kind thing, thought the swallow. The swallow plucked out the prince's sapphire and flew to the student's window. So the swallow gave the girl the sapphire, and the happy prince went blind. Day by day, the swallow carried stories of the poor, and the prince asked him to give away all his gold.
And I would also like to talk about one
The
more
Happy
lesson
Prince.
that I implemented, that was Kathmandu. Kathmandu, I think most of us know that it's a factual lesson, and sometimes it feels very dry also to be in the classroom too. We don't have much explanation or something, so the lesson goes on. So what I did is I picked up a video, the vlog, actually I should tell the vlog, that was about Kedarnath temple. In Kathmandu, you read about Pashupatinath temple, which are more or like it is similar, the Kedarnath temple. And what I did is I just inserted Kantara movie song, Brahma Kadasha. That was a time when the movie was released and that song was making a lot of noises. So I just inserted that song to that video, and I was surprised the moment that video was played. The entire lesson speaks about spirituality. There was no need for me to talk about theme, nothing as such. The spirituality was already in the class. And then I played the video, once again a vlog of Kathmandu. So they could easily compare and contrast, and they could easily connect. So according to me, being a teacher, what I have experienced all these years is, when you connect with your students, your classrooms are successful. First thing is you need to connect. If I brought that Pashupatinath temple reference, maybe somewhere that wouldn't have happened that easily. But I brought Kedarnath temple context, then I brought Pashupatinath temple, so that it was easy for them to understand, compare and contrast. And this was a student work which they did for Road Not Taken, and Padlet collaborative activity that is happening in the computer labs. And these are the two screenshots from Ei Puzzle video, how it is played. The video will be played and the questions are next to that. So the video pauses when the question pops up. Once they answer, the video continues to play. So Ei Puzzle scores and the comparison between pre and post intervention shows that definitely there was increase in student engagement, and the assessment also proved that. The mean score raised to 9.29 points. Yes, there was a shift in the classroom. Yes. So from voices back to purpose, I felt very happy when one of the students approached me and said, "Ma'am, the class felt more like discussion than a lesson." And this is what I wanted it to happen, and it happened. And that was a Padlet activity of the last lesson, where initially I started with 10, 12, then later on the screen was filled. Yes, and perhaps I think as a teachers, when we step back little bit thoughtfully, the students will always step forward confidently. This is not about replacing teachers with technology. This is about reclaiming classroom time for thinking, interaction, and meaningful learning. These were my references, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am. Can we have a round of applause for her? This is definitely a replicable model. Thank you so much, ma'am. And we'll now open the floor for questions. We'll take about 2 to 3 questions from the audience.
Yes,
ma'am. Yeah.
What evidence convinced you that student engagement had genuinely improved and not just shifted from due to the use of technology?
Ma'am, one is the Edpuzzle video. Like constantly they have to answer. It's not that simply the video is playing. In between there are questions. And questions were also not that simple. That is one evidence. And next is the collaborative activity. So where they have to present themselves. And it was like if I take Kathmandu lesson, I gave them an activity like they have to present a slide, bringing in the contrast and comparison with Pashupatinath temple and the Buddha stupa. So they presented it well, and nowhere I have intervened. I have not taught them. So it is all through the videos and other things. And I have lot of evidences attached to my paper. It's in the Google Drive. So I think can we play those? Can we play those datas? No.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
it's okay. Yes. Yes.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. I just want to know, was it like whether it is possible when it has been a crowd watching a video together, or is it very important that it should be a personalized experience for the children?
It should be personalized, ma'am. That's the reason I picked up Edpuzzle. See, you can bring into the class with our smart boards. I think most of the schools have. You can play it. But when you shift it to individually, that's what I mentioned also. I saw that many students revisited the video. So I'm creating a personal space also for them.
It is totally a very personalized
Yes.
experience of watching the videos. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi ma'am, and ma'am, it's so inspirational for all of us. Ma'am, I just wanted to know that as you said, you used the flipped classroom technology, right? Using so many tools. So, but the moment you started, you said like my class was quiet. So I just wanted to know like, because as you mentioned, the flipped classroom is something which they take home, like using Edpuzzle videos and everything. So how, when they come back to the classroom, so did you find any change in their discussion groups, or means physically how much your class has changed?
Ma'am, to be honest, that's what I mentioned in my paper also. At first I failed. When I gave them homework,
Yes.
I failed utterly.
Okay.
Because they didn't do it. And I know as a teacher, even they have a lot of pressure and other things. I don't think that and even parents will not allow them. My teacher has given a homework for me with a video. I will sit and watch the video. I think as a parent, even I wouldn't
Actually,
agree.
ma'am, I'm come from a place in North India where the parents didn't allow their adolescent kids to have mobiles.
Yes, definitely.
And whenever during the PTMs, they complained us a lot that, ma'am, you are given some homework which is, they are using mobile phones for such purposes. So please don't send those kind of things.
And that's the reason I used one of the educator has proposed. Her name is Martha. So it is like in-class FIP. Instead of sending the videos home and asking them to come prepared, you show those videos in the class. So then the Edpuzzle was my, I should tell that it was my blessing. So videos were also there. Along with that, I can give the questions also. So I could reduce my discussion time, and at the same time, I'm also understanding their learning space as well. Because they're answering the questions there, and I'm able to see their responses.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What advice would you like to give to the teachers who want to follow this?
Yes, whoever wants to follow this, it's very easy. But we need to be conscious when we are bringing in videos to the class. First thing is that videos I suggest, ample number of videos are there available on YouTube. Just a little bit of that I think our teacher mind should ignite while choosing the videos. And Edpuzzle is an easy platform, and in my abstract I had mentioned about Socrative. But when I started using it, I found it difficult for myself. Then I took out that Socrative out of my practice because I can't suggest for others. So then that's the reason I brought in Edpuzzle. Even Edpuzzle has their own embedded videos. Grammar, they have very good videos. Definitely you can use it. N number of videos. You can create your own. Yes, you can do it. And I created a digital story book. It takes a lot of time. I do agree. But later on, I found out that there is one more AI tool. Yes, Gemini. So you can just give your prompts and the storybook is created in 10-15 seconds. That's really awesome that we can use it. So somewhere we are drawing their attention, and the picture based always makes a larger retention in their mind, and that's what I suggest. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'll come and meet you personally. Yes. Thank you everyone.
In fact, we would encourage that we use the lunch hour. I think it's so nice to see so many questions coming in, and the discussions must keep going. We move on to the next winner.
Now shifting gears again, at third position, we have from Dr. Kalmadi Shamarao High School, Ms. Sneha Umbarkar. Her paper addresses a very modern challenge. How do you demystify AI for 7th graders?
Yes, in fact, she moved beyond the buzzwords and used a facial recognition activity involving Disney characters to teach the fundamentals of computational thinking. Please put your hands together for Ms. Sneha to present her findings.
Good afternoon, respected educators and fellow researchers. It is a privilege to be here today. I am Sneha Umbarkar from Dr. Kalmadi Shamarao High School, Pune. I am a computer science teacher. If you will see, my research question is how to unplug AI activity improves computational thinking. This is my research question, which is aligned with the theme using technology effectively in computational thinking. What led me here is a very interesting thing. As everyone we know, we are in 21st century. It's already a AI generation. So there is no need to ask. Last presentation also, madams, you have seen, she has used very nicely. She has used different technologies over here. But when I ask students how exactly an image is getting recognized, I really got surprised. Students are using a daily, knowingly, unknowingly, they are using AI. For example, they are using Google Lens to search something regarding any image. They are playing AI-based game, Akinator, Quick Draw, Symantris. But I wondered they are not aware about anything. When I asked them, how does it work? How does it take the decision? So most of the class is not able to answer anything. This made me think, this made me reflect that I need an age-appropriate, simple method which I will take them into the world of AI. So that entry point was required for me. That's why I come up with this question, that is, how does unplug AI activity improves computational thinking? And the study was conducted with 80 students of grade 7. Before moving on to the actual activity, first of all, I want to explain you what exactly the computational thinking means. It's a science, how the computer is thinking. We are trying to explain that. I want a student should also think like a computer to solve the problem. Computer is actually working with these 4 pillars. The first pillar is a decomposition, that is breaking down the problem into a smaller parts. The second one is abstraction, that is focusing on the important details, ignore rest of the others. The third pillar is a pattern recognition. Over here, pattern means finding the similarities. Even today also we are learning, even human brain is also working with a pattern. So computer is also analyzing, finding the pattern and come up with the accuracy or with the prediction. The last pillar is an algorithm, which is a step-by-step execution of any task to achieve the desired result. So this is very much important when we are doing any activity. Let's see the intervention and the observation. It's divided into 2 stages. For this activity, I was required 6 sessions over 3 weeks. My activity has been divided into 2 stages. The first one is unplugged activity, and the second one where I have introduced digital AI tools and coding to the grade 7. Unplugged in the sense, I haven't used a computer directly to the students. I use simple resources like images, questionnaire and the binary scoring. The activity was collaborative and engaging. Let's see the unplugged activity. Here you can see the structure. The whole activity is divided into 2 parts. First, I conducted with the fictional character. Second, I conducted with the actual human images, but both follows the same AI process, that is data extraction, which is input, database search, which is process, and the last one is output based on the data analysis. For that, I have selected these 5 Disney princesses. The reason behind it, it is first of all familiar to the student, attractive, effective. They enjoy the learning because of this princess. Let's see. The first step, as I said, it was a data extraction. Here, students have to observe the image. They have to write down the features. So from the whole class, I have selected the 5 students. I asked them to observe the image and write down the abstraction, write down the features of that particular image. You can see here they have written the dress color, dress length, and all the accessories they have done it. Same way they did it for the other characters also. So 5 students has done this analysis. So this is called as a decomposition of the image. They break down the problem into a smaller parts. That 5 students, I asked that same 5 students, now you have to make a questionnaire to identify your image. So the 5 students, they have made the questionnaire also. So this is first questionnaire. For example, they have wrote the question as dress color yellow, one piece, like that they come up with their. So 5 students come up with 5 different questionnaire to guess their character. You can see here they are solving in a group. Some are solving on board also. After the analysis, after that process, I come to the analysis part. Now, the rest of the class I divided into groups. And I have given that 5 questionnaire to 5 different groups. Now, the 5 students were standing in front of the row and they were solving, the groups are solving the questionnaire by observing that 5 princes. First question is dress color blue. They have to observe all the 5 images which are there in front of them, and they have given the answer in the form of a zeros and ones. If it is matched, they have to write down 1. If it doesn't match, they have to write down 0. Here you can see at the end they made the total and they got the answer as 9. So they come to know that the questionnaire which they got it, that is character 4, and the name of the character is Anna. So here, through this, they have understood that computer doesn't see how we are thinking anything, how we are watching anything. Computer only process the data and they generates the output. You can see a few more examples. The other questionnaire, they got answer as character 5, which is Cinderella. Here you can see a graphical representation. Each group has got the perfect answer, and because of that their confidence has also boosted. Now the twist, I made it. Instead of the Disney princess, I replaced it with the actual human images. It's the same grade 6 students. I have used their images. I asked them the same thing, do the data abstraction, go for make a questionnaire. So here you can see the data abstraction, they did it. But when they solve the questionnaire, you can see the total, the ambiguity is more. They haven't got the proper output. Their percentage, matching percentage, when it was a Disney princess, it was more. When it comes to the actual analysis, it has drastically reduced. So here they have understood actual data or a real-time data is complex for analysis. So how to solve this problem? So they only come up with the solution that they have to do the detailed analysis. they have to increase the number of questionnaire. So they did it, and you can see the drastic result, 23% has increased to 35%. So computer is also doing in that way. Even your AI is also working on the same principle. We need to give a better and the accurate data for data accuracy. That's why the big data comes into the picture. So here they have understood the importance of data, quality, quantity, and how these things are depend on the prediction and the matching probability. Here you can see the Disney princess, when I used, their accuracy was 45%. When I used a human image with a less data, it has drastically reduced to 23%. When it comes to the human data, with the increased questionnaire, it leads to 35%. Overall, the impact was very impressive. The first thing which the students have understood the logic behind how AI actually works in a real life scenario. The technology behind image processing, their observation skill has been strengthened over here. Most importantly, collaborative and the communication skill. We are only talking about the 21st century skill, but they have actually used it over here. They understood the collecting and the analyzing of the data, and most importantly, how to train data for AI by providing more accurate data. In this way, I completed my phase 1. Now, whatever the students have learned, they tried to relate with the actual world. And here I have introduced them the tools as machine learning for kids and scratch programming. It's a block-based programming. Here they got the hands-on experience and they made a project also. They come up with a various nice project. I really liked it. Some students said that, can we create a face recognition for the attendance system? Can we create means if we will analyze any image and it automatically gives what is the mood of that person. Some are said, can we make an ocean cleaner robot where it can recognize the garbage and it can pull. So one of the project which I liked it is a Booklens AI edition. The name only they have given. Here what exactly they did it? They made a model which will identify the different book images, book cover image, and it shows the type and its condition. Let's see. First of all, they label this data. So here they made a 3 data set. The first one is holding the science fiction book cover image. The second one is holding the fantasy book cover image. And the third one is holding thriller book cover images. So they made these data sets. After that, they trained that model with the help of that machine learning for kids website. Then that trained model is integrated with the scratch programming. Here they have wrote their program, they showed their programming skill and they wrote a code over here. As well as they used, for the prediction, they used a live camera also. Just see this video. This only. Yes, it's playing. So the first, it's recognizing the image with a random function. This is a tool which they used it. You can see here 107 book cover they scanned and they uploaded, 147 fantasy book cover images and 133 thriller book cover images they have uploaded in that particular database. They trained that database. Then here they clicked on make, means it's getting integrated with the scratch programming now. That trained model, in scratch programming, that cat we are calling as a costume is basically an object. They are uploading few images from each data set. The same process they did it. From each data set they have selected few images. Here they are writing the code now. You can see here it's a pick random is very important function in coding. Randomly any number is getting picked up between 1 to 10. And as per the number, the image will get pop up while they will execute the program. This is a if-else statement now they will use here. It's checking with the data set what type of this image is. You can see the output. When you execute it, randomly the images are coming and it says it's a thriller book, it's a sci-fi book. The random function, they are variable in the sense the number is getting pop-up and as per the number it shows the image. Now the same thing they did it with the webcam to get the real time example. The same data set they used, instead of uploading the image, they used a live camera over here. See, it shows it's a fantasy book. The image has changed, it's a thriller. So live camera is getting detected. So you can see left hand side they have wrote a code and right hand side. So basically the training, that trained data is analyzed like how they did it previously for Disney princess, for the actual human faces. Here computer has done for them. So AI is how exactly it was working. They have understood the mechanism behind it. That was my biggest motive behind teaching them that through activity. And you can see during the first attempt, my accuracy, their accuracy was 48%. But when they reached to the final attempt, it has raised to 88%. So they have understood how to train the data, how it is happening behind. What did I learn? Many things I have learned because previously I was just knowing that student might be know how exactly AI works. So that myth is there. So student doesn't understand while they are using the technology, they don't understand the logic behind it. It's a teacher's duty to explain them or to make them understand how exactly it is working. Moving from unplugged to digital was very, very important. That made the things simple, easy for them to understand. Data quality matters a lot in AI. So if we will train with the wrong data, there is a possibility you will get the wrong answer. So don't totally rely on AI. If you will see the last output, I have showed, means the students have showed the AI book, but because it is red color with a dark background, it was showing it was a thriller book. So be careful while using AI also. Collaboration is required and it is, then only it is possible we will come to the successful project. What this study is relevant, if you will see the computational thinking, it's everywhere. I'm not saying it's only limited to computers. We are using it directly, indirectly, you are also using in your daily life. We have to break down the problems to solve it. We are using algorithmic thinking just to come here also. How I will come from Pune to Bangalore, it's an algorithm. It's a pattern, every day that flight is there. But I have analyzed the pattern. So everything is already there. Science, if you will take any topic, it's not limited to only science, only maths. Everything is integrated with each other when you will give them the hands-on experience, when you will give them the project-based learning. So the AI tool makes AI learner clear, engaging and transferable. These are some tools which I used it as a computer science teacher. I'm aware most of the teachers are not aware. You can tell your computer teachers, machine learning for kids is a very good platform. They will get the hands-on experience of AI. Overall conclusion, unplugged activity built a strong conceptual foundation to the students. My motive was to convert a student of AI user to AI creator, which I achieved at the end of the activity. Computational thinking plays very important role in a daily life also. Basically, we are telling the students how to think. Then only we will get the desired output. And very importantly, we are not just teaching them the technology, but we are nurturing innovators, creators for this 21st century. That's the thing. Thank you. I just want to thank EPIC for this wonderful opportunity to share our classroom research, because rarely a teacher is getting any platform to showcase what she is doing exactly in the classroom. So I'm really thankful for EPIC team, specifically Swati ma'am and Samta ma'am. She was there with me from the day one. I am just asking them, have you got my mail? Are you considered my entry? Because somehow I haven't received any reback mail. So thank you so much, and I really thank for my management. They are having a very great vision, and my principal ma'am. Thank you. I would like to take your questions.
Thank you so much, Sneha ma'am. We'll begin with questions. We already have one.
Okay, good afternoon, ma'am. It's more than a question, it's basically a compliment. Two things. Firstly, you have decoded how AI works in very simple words for us. So that's the compliment. Secondly, I think you might have mentioned, or I missed out, or maybe you have not included, when you said your stage one, you give data more precisely, AI works more, the output is more specific. So I think this is a point where we should bring it across to children. The more you expose yourself on social media, saying this is my like, this is my dislike, this, so they are giving away more data about themselves and exposing themselves to unwanted risk. I think this is one subtle message which children can take. Very, very nice. Thank you so much.
I just want to give you one example. When you are getting anything free, so you are the product.
Wonderful. That's a good one. Thank you so much. Do we have? Okay, sure.
Very good afternoon to everyone. I am not the concerned person, but I am that father that Ravi sir told, who entered the school curriculum. Because as a protocol, I have come with my wife. She is the teacher. But something I felt that I should ask anything. Ma'am, Hindi में question ज़्यादा अच्छा लगेगा. Are you comfortable in Hindi?
Yes.
मैम कहा जाता है कि जब आपने डाटा दिया बच्चों को तो उस टाइम पे कहते हैं ना कि दिस इज द प्रोडक्ट एंड यू शुड इनोवेट योरसेल्फ. द थिंग्स यू were telling was like that. You are trying to give the children the open hand. Did you find anything innovative among themselves other than giving the data? कि इन्होंने कुछ AI के अंदर इतना इंटीग्रेट किया, इतना डाटा डाला, इतने कोडिंग करी, जिससे उनके माइंड में कुछ नया आइडिया या कुछ एनीथिंग अदर देन द ट्रेडिशन रिलेटिंग टू द AI प्रैक्टिसेस विच आर गोइंग ऑन. जिसको मैं कहता हूँ कि प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियरिंग की एक्यूरेसी तो आपने मेंटेन कर दी, बट इससे कुछ बच्चों के अंदर नई वो चीज़ें डेवलप हुई कि इसके अंदर कुछ और ऐसा किया जाए.
Yes, definitely. जैसे कि they said ना, as per they can scan any image कि उनका friend is he happy है, sad है, so we can relate that, like उनके emotions भी हम लोग catch कर सकते हैं. We can use as a face detection model. Attendance लेना नहीं है मैम, कैसे हम लोग ऐसा कुछ बनाए क्या कि directly when we will enter automatically the attendance will come.
That is the real outcome.
Yes. And apart from that, I just want to explain one more example. One of my student, he made a simulator in Scratch where it was exactly working as a ocean cleaner robot. So it trained the fish. They trained the fish ka images, and they trained trash images. It's a simulator, huh? It's not actually a AI. They used it, and it was very amazing. So when the things are passing, the trash is automatically getting collected with a red color. If it is a fish, it shows a green color and it allows to pass. So this type of a creativity, and students are more creative. So we just have to give them the free platform to think, and we have to give them the time for reflection. That is missing, and this is a real challenge for a teacher, how to manage the time.
Thank you. There, and yeah, maybe we can have ma'am also. Yeah, two more questions.
Just a thought, a lesson for us also, because we are using AI a lot, and the use of right prompts. I think it's a takeaway for us also from this activity. I think so, right, ma'am?
Yes,
Sneha, ma'am?
yes, yes.
The students have to use the right prompts to further their experiment and activities.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that. I just thought
You have
it's
to
a
write
training
it
for us
precise.
also.
How much, see, how much accuracy you required, it's up to you. That much, you can say that many prompts or specific task, whatever you want to come from, आपको जो चाहिए, you have to deliver that. Then
Based
only
on
you
our
will get.
requirements?
Yes.
It
That
should
is
be so
If
specific.
you will ask me, there is a debate, but I will always suggest AI is very useful. It always gives a customized response, which is not possible in a class of a 40. Each one is having a different demand from a teacher. So AI and the teacher has to go together for this customization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. It's not a question, it's just a compliment not only to you, but all the three teachers who came up and presented. A lot of tangible outcomes, which as teachers we always focus on, but a lot of not so tangible outcomes, which are so evidently visible, which can't be quantified. But I think right from the first to the second to the third, how you reflect, how you connect, how you make sense, how you collaborate, so much more, which I think is what actually the education focuses on, and where we began the morning conference. So I'm so glad that I'm sitting here and listening, and I wish you all were in my school. If not, I hope we get to interact more with you, and we take this back to our teachers as inspirations for them as well. They're doing fabulous work in my school, but I think a lot of work, a lot of learning. So thank you so much, EI, for putting this up together.
Thank you so much.
Just a bit of trivia about our winners. So just as you saw 3 flavors of work from all 3 of them, they actually come from 3 different cities. Sneha ma'am here is from Pune, Heama ma'am from Chennai, and Shilpa ma'am from Bangalore. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was the process of choosing these 3 was very, very rigorous and not easy. We had 15 internal jury members, and 6 external jury members, and 3 mentors who worked for over a month to finalize the 3 winners and the 23 special mentions, which also we'll see after lunch. So let's first acknowledge the rigor that these wonderful teachers brought to their work.
It's as if Ashwini and I are exchanging something very important. Thank you so much. I think the applause must go on. And now I would request Dr. Ravi to please felicitate our winners. We will call out your names. Please come here and take your very well-deserved award.
Starting first from Miss Heama KV from PSBB Chennai, rank 1 for EPIC 2026. For her paper titled Ripple Pedagogy. Next, Miss Shilpa YB from NPS Kengeri. Thank you, Shilpa ma'am. And rank 3, we have Sneha ma'am from Kalmari School, Pune, a paper on demystifying AI. Ravi. Thank you, winners. All right.
Thank you so much. And now it's close to 1 and it's lunchtime. Lunch is served upstairs on near the foyer area. We also request all of you to network with each other. And I think we also have posters, so feel free to get clicked, click a lot of pictures and make the most of it. When we come back, we'll be here for a panel discussion and a poster walk. See you all at 2. Thank you so much.
You'll have to take the lift and press T to go to the terrace. The terrace is where the lunch is served. So we'll see you back at 2 p.m. sharp. Thank you.